Before my ski accident, I got to go on a trip to Australia to visit my friend Mel, who was hosting a wedding/anniversary celebration in the beautiful Central Coast in Australia. Mel asked if there was anything I wanted to do while in Australia since it was my first time. I said, I want to see a koala. She told me they have a reptile park nearby where I could even pet one and take a photo with them and feed the kangaroos. And this magical place is called the Australian Reptile Park in New South Wales. 2 days after their wedding celebration, Mel and her partner took me there. Initially, I was only keen on seeing all the koalas, but Mel convinced me that the presentation of the snakes and crocodiles was worth it, and I'm so glad I got to go. I had already uploaded my videos on the snake archetypes on my channel, considering this is the year of the wood snake, but it had been honestly a little while since I've had any close encounters with real snakes. The Australian Reptile Park runs a vital anti-venom program with their snakes and spiders, saving thousands of lives over the years. Growing up in Costa Rica, Guatemala, and Taiwan, we had our share of venomous snakes, spiders, and frogs, which is also why initially I wasn't too keen to view them up close. The show was brief and very educational, and I felt the presenter did a fantastic job engaging both adults and kids. I could actually hear his breath quicken through the microphone as he was handling the more venomous snakes, and I have to give him mad props for sharing educational info while handling this life-threatening species. The show included a snake milking demonstration, and he explained why they do it and how important it is to create anti-venom vaccines and for research and all that. He also demonstrated how to get a rise out of the snakes with his foot, and it's kind of like, it looks like a defensive move to protect his shin from attacks. And also kind of show us what they look like when they're agitated and how to interact with them if we encounter one in nature, which is, after all, their home, their natural habitat. There was actually a tremendous amount of care, respect, and awe shared throughout the whole performance or presentation from the audience, the presenter, and about the animals and respecting them. And that was very beautiful to witness, actually. So after watching Mickey 17, if you haven't seen that movie, go see it. And don't worry, this is not a spoiler. After watching the movie, I actually immediately thought of the snakes I visited in Australia, and I got to fully appreciate the significance of their existence and contribution. And what the snakes were teaching me resonated deeper after watching the movie. So one of my mentors, either she shared it in her previous videos or it was one of the courses that I took, and I'm paraphrasing, who are we to judge why someone would choose a certain incarnation for themselves, right? I resonated with that deeply because I also don't consider animals to be of a lower consciousness, frequency, or intelligence. They're just different. So at least here on the third dimension, we could very easily decide to choose our life as a snake, spider, or frog in order to learn something different than being human. More traditional Buddhist and Hindu viewpoints present the animal kingdom as a little less ideal than human incarnations for spiritual advancements, because animals are seen as lower on this spiritual evolutionary ladder. When these ideas are mixed in with folklore and culture, they suggest that if you don't exercise good morals, you might be punished or sentenced to a life in the animal kingdom from bad karma. I was so humbled by the snakes I encountered at this reptile park, because if we consider that perspective that they chose to be there, instead of thinking, oh, these poor snakes, poor spiders, they're in captivity in this little box, But if we reframe that, what if they're choosing to live there and donate their venom in order to save 25,000 lives and counting? And this I found on the park's website. Because this is my limited perspective of feeling bad for them in captivity. But if we reframe it, maybe it's not bad, to be in their habitat and not having to be disturbed by predators and hiking humans. Like, who am I to judge what constitutes a good life, a good purpose for a snake, unless I try it myself? So as I observed this queen snake, and that was part of the snake section, the snake room of the park. I'm sorry I didn't capture the breed or the name. I felt like she was teaching me something about my own fears, about yin energy, duality, and this vibrational wisdom through her movements. I have a reasonable fear of snakes and poison, but I feel like this snake was challenging me to face my fears head on. And not just my fear of snakes, but the other deep-rooted fears I still hold within me that I'm not ready to overcome yet. And she seemed to be telling me that she too has fears. As the presenter explained, snakes also like to be left alone. And when they're rattling or rising up or expanding in defense, they're visually setting a boundary, saying, hey, do not come closer. You are in my space. So in those few minutes staring at the snake through the glass, and we had this exchange, I feel like I received a masterclass about the delicate dance between fear and courage and the importance of setting healthy boundaries. There was a young boy and his mom standing next to us, and he was very excited to see the snake kind of moving and, interacting, because on their last visit, this snake was sleeping. So I felt like the snake was honoring us with a special greeting. The rattling of the snakes and how their bodies are so sensitive to the earth's vibration remind me of the wisdom that snakes and other reptiles possess, as they're closely tied to the earth elements, as they literally crawl on the ground and they have to lounge on sunny rocks and control their body temperature. They're just so much more connected. This connection is why the snakes are a perfect metaphor for the Kundalini energy. When we bring the energy up from the earth, up through the spine and through the crown, and especially when the snakes are rising up. As I talked about in my other videos, with the snake archetypes, they represent transformation, rebirth, including the duality. So we have like the two serpents in the caduceus, or the Ouroboros, where the snake is eating its own tail. On the one side of the duality, there's this poison, darkness, and the yin, and the other side is like healing and alchemizing and turning poison into anti-venom and healing. And just interacting and seeing the snakes, it was kind of an enlightening moment for me to experience this after making the video on the wood snake and also Nuwa, and to see the snakes in person. Their presence in the park is their gift, their version of service, of being of service to the collective. And they're not only educating or entertaining us, but they're also providing venom for healing. And it was humbling to feel, to be in their presence and to witness these snakes and spiders be of service, especially this year. So now let's move on to the koalas. I always thought they were the cutest, fluffiest little gray animals, hugging each other, balancing on the eucalyptus trees. So I was so thrilled to see them in person. Koalas supposedly sleep 18 to 22 hours a day. That's even longer than my cats. And if any animal values rest and non-linear productivity, it's koalas. They're absolutely adorable. They move slowly and some barely move. And they're sleeping perfectly balanced on trees in funny positions. And I also got to see the little baby koalas holding onto their moms. So what did I learn from the koalas? I was so impressed by how relaxed they are. They're actually masters at surrendering to stillness while still being at peace and content. They live simply, they move and eat slowly, and they have no problem being rather than doing. Our modern culture still emphasizes doing and productivity instead of just being, and watching them just be was a gift. So we actually returned to the whole koala area before leaving the park, and I'm so glad we did because we saw them play and interact. It was so adorable how fast one climbed down the tree. They actually can climb fast. My friend Mel said she has never seen them this active. And that was the general reaction of the other local visitors. I was so thrilled because I thought they were so cute, but they were also super cute, like chasing each other and wrestling. And the caretakers explained they were about to be fed, so they were probably excited about food. I know I would be too. So koalas are fantastic teachers of being and authenticity. I mean, just look at these two koalas that I'm showing in the picture. They don't give a F. They know you're watching and they can just ignore you and do whatever they want. And so they were so authentically and unapologetically themselves. Honestly, seeing these two koalas completely ignore and just do their own thing, it's so iconic, and I aspire to have that level of chill. So I made this video because I was genuinely inspired by my visit to the Reptile Park in New South Wales, and it just reminded me that the wisdom from nature is always available to us if we stay open to receiving. You don't have to go to a zoo, a park, or even Australia, although that was very nice and I recommend it. You can just be present in your neighborhood, your garden, or even your backyard. Back when I lived in California, I'd sit with my cat, Skyla, and just listen to the squirrels. I know it's funny, but Skyla was never chasing the squirrels as prey. She was always just curiously observing with her big round eyes, and often we're both noticing the crows and listening to what they have to say. So I'm Liz from Athena's Garden. Thank you for watching, and I hope this video brought you a little lighthearted joy and relaxation in between some of my deeper and more serious topics like AI. So I'd love to hear the comments if there's any incidences where your local flora and fauna has taught you lately, any lessons and messages that they've shared with you. Did you receive any other presents and insights and wisdoms from nature and animals? I would love to hear about it in the comments below or in my Discord community. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, see you in my next video.